Nuts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Okay, and tonight, I want to find out from you, should teenagers be allowed to win a cash prize for playing video games? Let's speak to Andy Robertson. He's created gaming device with Internet Matters. Andy, thanks for your time this evening. What do you think of a teenager winning £1 million for playing a video game?
It's not unusual, is it, for teenagers to win money playing sports, but obviously it's a video game, and so you have that kind of disconnect between, is a video game a sport? And I think that's probably where it becomes more of a hot topic.
Would you class it as a sport?
I think if you think about the amount of practice and skill required to compete at that level, I would say it is a highly skilled thing that certainly I couldn't do. And when I see my kids practicing on the games that they play, I've seen them progress, and I see that as very similar to them seeing them progress at football and other things they do. I want to see that as part of a wide sort of diet of different activities, but the gaming, I think, can be generally seen as something parents want to praise like they would a sport.
Well, I mean, some parents listening to this might think, wow, you're classing it as a sport when no one is actually doing there's no kind of physical aspect of it. It's just someone sitting down and pressing buttons and hoping to win.
The challenge is that we see video games as kind of entertainment, as just for children, because they're new. But as you kind of get a better understanding of what's involved, you realise there's a lot more going on the screen than first appears. So it's not just about having the quickest reactions and pressing the buttons on the controller the fastest. Those competitors are managing lots of different things. They're keeping an eye on the environment they're in. They're understanding how the building mechanics work in the game. They're obviously being aware of other players. They're communicating with teammates. And so they're also then working on those various levels and doing some quite advanced tactics and sort of systems work, really, to actually progress and rise to the top in that field.
I mean, he's been playing since the age of 5. He's clearly had a lot of practice. Would you say he's addicted to gaming? Is this some form of addiction?
Yeah, I think playing a game for a lot of time isn't a sign of addiction. When you're addicted to something, it's really about other things in your life suffering, and that's a much better measure than just the time at the screen. And so, providing this is part of a healthy lifestyle where he's doing other things, is obviously part of a family, and he's going to school and all those other bits and pieces.
8 hours a day?
Yes, I don't think it is an addiction unless it is something that's detrimental to other parts of your life. So I would see this in a similar way to practicing for tennis or something. Those tennis youngsters at Wimbledon are going to put in a lot of hours of practice and effort, but we wouldn't say, are they addicted to tennis just because of that high number? But, because screens are new and because it looks very sedentary and because it's not obvious the amount of work they're putting in, it can feel like, well, is this as positive as it's being made out to be?
There's so many things I want to jump on there.
Yeah, Susie, please come in. Susie Rarup is our parent contributor tonight.
So I'm also a mindset coach for tennis players, interestingly, and I can guarantee you that they would not be at the top of their game without physical activity. If you're not linking physical activity to mental activity, you will not gain benefits. If these players are not using their strategy and their tactics wider in life, then they're not benefiting. It is just escapism in a game. As far as I'm concerned, if you're playing something for 8 hours a day, you are sacrificing, as you rightly said, sleep, anything that is going to equip you later in life. It's about saying, is chess a sport? Well, it's a mind game. Is Sudoku a sport? No. Would you do it for 8 hours a day? No. Why? Because something for that amount of time becomes unhealthy unless it's producing something. So, I think if it's a hobby, fair enough, but 8 hours a day is plain weird and unconstructive for your life. Calling it a sport, I mean, that just blows my mind, frankly.
Well, chess is a really good example, isn't it? I don't think we'd be having this conversation about the Chess World Cup if one of the UK teenagers had come back and had been very successful. I think that's quite a good similarity there.
So should that be declassified then as not a sport?
You could declassify a number of things like darts for not being a sport. I think the fact here is the age of the boy.
Yeah,
and
he's started at 5. He's now 15. I mean, what politically, generally, we're living in kind of weird times. People want their kids to get a job. They want their kids to excel and to be the best. But do you think this is the perception now? If I play Fortnite, I can win £1 million in a year's time.
it's going to be like Premiership footballing, isn't it? Everybody wants to aim high to be that Premiership football star, where there's lots of money. But there's plenty of other benefits of pursuing performance in Fortnite. What you're learning in the game and those skills are transferable in lots of different ways.
What are those skills? What are those skills? I'm intrigued to know. I mean, what are those skills? What would they do to help someone to excel in life?
So to succeed in Fortnite, like I was saying, you're dealing with lots of different systems. So there's lots of kind of systems management stuff, which is very useful in lots of different careers. But there's also lots of sort of developmental stuff in terms of social communication, confidence and resilience. You don't become good at Fortnite unless you have got that mental attitude and strength of mind, a lot like chess, to pursue playing again and again and again. And obviously that does mean that you're putting quite a lot of time. But those players that do that and do that in a focused and kind of informed way then develop their gameplay in the same way that a chess master has done many, many hours of playing chess when they were younger. But I also think, in terms of games, there's many different roles in both esports and the wider gaming industry that getting involved in games in this way can then lead on to.
So I think there's one lens where you see it as addiction. There's another lens where you see it as commitment. And I think that you are on the benefit of the doubt side, Andy, where you're going with the commitment. And that part I sort of admire, because I know when I work with clients that if they can commit to one thing, they can commit to anything. Mm. The problem is there's no one joining the dots for that person and saying, right, okay, given that you have shown 8 hours a day of commitment to this and you have proved that you are world ranking worthy, what else could we apply that to? How else can we do that? The problem is not everything else is going to give you £1 million. Now, obviously, there was no guarantee that he would get the £1 million, right? And we don't know what his motivation was, whether it was the title, whether it was the money. But the fact is, someone has got to be there helping that person. You could say the same about a lottery winner. Who is coaching the person in trying to work out, well, who are you really when your ego's not in overdrive? What do you really want from life? Because I can tell you this, I coach a number of people that are highly successful, that earn six-figure salaries, and they feel empty and they lack purpose. So this person is going to have a problem very early in life if someone doesn't help them see what they want to do with life and help them leverage the so-called skills that they have learned to apply them somewhere else. But I can tell you this also, I'd love to see that kid in an interview when he's had no social interaction and when he's just been looking at a screen for 8 hours
It's about applying those social skills, isn't it, Andy?
This is where the parenting really comes in, and this is where there's a real challenge, I think, for us as parents, that there's a temptation to stand off of these activities in a way that we don't do in other areas, and we let the kind of kids get on with it. But like we've been saying, actually, those children need adults present in their video game playing like they do in other areas of their life. And that's part of this research that I was doing with Internet Matters, was showing that when parents engage with the games that their children play, it becomes very transformative, both for the child and the parent. The conversations change about them rather than the child wanting to play more and the parent saying no. They actually understand what's happening on the screen. And also the child benefits from all that kind of wisdom of the parents. So as they succeed, they've got that kind of steering. But actually, I was having a chat with my son today who was frustrated with the game. And actually, the result of our conversation was for me to say, perhaps you need to play a bit longer and actually persevere.
So you would allow him. You'd allow him to play. So at the moment, how long is he playing the game for?
So he'd played. It was a new game he wanted to play, and we talked about it and agreed he could play it. And he'd played probably 4 or 5 hours just getting started, and he came off it a little bit frustrated. That wasn't all in one go, and said, "Oh, the game isn't quite what I thought it would be. I'm a bit frustrated. The other players are much better." And I started to sort of say, well, perhaps we should find something else. This isn't a great, maybe this isn't what you thought it was. And then actually the conversation took a turn. And I realised what I needed to do was actually to persuade him to persevere at this and actually to see it out, to see if it was going to be something that he would enjoy and it would become sort of part of his social sort of digital life, that he plays with his friends.
5 hours, that is very interesting. I'm not sure, if you're a parent listening, whether you'd allow your child to play for 5 hours. I know for a fact my godson, my best friend and his son, who's my godson, probably I reckon 3 or 4. To be honest, I haven't even asked how long he allows my godson to play Fortnite for. Thank you very much to Andy Robertson. He created the gaming advice with Internet Matters. I want to get your views on this. Should teenagers be allowed to win a cash prize for playing video games? And we're talking about this because a 15-year-old has won nearly £1 million playing the video game Fortnite.